家家，爱还你一个家，为何独我不独他？
Here's Jarvan for score, so it's going to be a bit of an older pick for him. I think Kingen might be hankering for a last pick, potentially, to bring him back. He's usually a big carry player. When we've seen him this season, honestly, hasn't been too much to separate him from Score, but Score's made probably some more notable lane errors. And the last time these two teams faced, the second game in particular, is one that's going to stick out in fans' minds. It was the Renekton-Elise combo that just dominated Smeb's Cannon, just made it look like a really sad day.
Yeah.
So, hoping for better tidings, KT rolls to this game as two ganking junglers, including the aforementioned Elise, going to be banned away by KT.
They want to take it away for now, as the Neeko could be going top, but you never know with that flex.
If you want to target something that's been played a lot by Kingen and solo queue, he's been playing a lot of Camille recently. In the top side, 10 games, 7-3, and going on any sort of comfort might be a good idea. We had a lot of Camille bans, you remember, in our first series. If there's Camille players being banned quite frequently, not the best lane into a Neeko, but here we go. We're actually going to go for a bit of a self-counter pick. I love Neeko and the Kennen matchup, and it's KT Kennen, but it's not KT Smeb.
Yeah, not going to be him. As we were hovering the Lissandra, I haven't seen her for a long time. Remember when it was Lissandra every single game?
Nope.
That's an era passed away.
I've repressed it.
Yeah. We forgot about that one.
I repressed a lot of bad things. How did international events go last year? I forgot.
Who knows? No idea.
Freaks. They want the combat advantage. So Dread still is going to find something that brawls with the best of them against the Jarvan. What's the fun of it? Okay. Here we go. Now, this used to be a very interesting counterpick matchup for Kennen, but Gnar went on to win this matchup. There's been one Gnar game. It's a victory. This isn't TFT. This is League of Legos, and we've still got the Gnar.
And the interesting thing here also is that they hover the Azir. They're like, okay, BDD, pick the Azir. And they don't give it, they don't take it themselves. They give it over. And BDD's like, yeah, sure, I'll play Azir. And this is exactly what I was talking about. This guy has shown a lot of prowess on the pick. They don't ban it, they don't take it away, and BDD will get it once again.
Is League of Legends such a weird world where Neeko is like a Kennen counter, and they're like, no, we'll go Gnar, which used to be a Kennen winning lane, but recently had been going towards the Gnar again, so it feels like a double self-counter pick happened here, but it's Keen on Gnar, and Keen was in wonderful form. Last time these two teams met, his Vladimir just ran over in game number 1, and then the Renekton in the hard camp top lane. So, all right, Keen onto the Gnar. Cuvée somewhere is watching on in great interest at seeing Gnar back in the game.
Maybe we can get a Gangplank for game 2 as well if Keen wants to give a little tribute to Cuvée and Genji.
To be fair,
they're doing well nowadays.
Recently, Cuvée deserves whatever tributes he's getting.
Yeah.
I don't know what blood sacrifices he had to do to get this sort of form going, but Cuvée, out of nowhere, is looking like the monster final boss of top lane after being a non-factor, really, all year.
Yeah, Guy's a beast. Came out of nowhere once again. You have to wait until tomorrow, the second match, to catch him.
Against Roscoe.
Me and Low Standards are going to be covering that one. Should be a lot of fun.
I'm going to wait. I hope High Standards shows up. I don't know if we need Low Standards tomorrow.
You're going to be a stream watcher tomorrow, Papa Smithy.
I like to think of High Standards as LS's like alter ego.
Yeah.
His like
when
brother.
the really good games come out and he's like actually, not making jokes about TFT.
Guess what? We definitely didn't need him today.
Yeah, well, we'll have him tomorrow, and for now, we will have Afrika versus KT. Let's jump into the Rift for game number 1 and see who is going to come ahead in the series.
계획은 성립됐다.
All right, dusk has set on the Rift here.
It's 8:08 p.m. Korean Standard Time on a Friday.
Nice.
And we have a packed house here. KT, because they have so many beloved players, they still get a full side, and they must just be hankering for that first victory in a month, Valdez. It will never be a true surprise if KT perform well, and yet it would be a relative surprise given how they've been this season. They've been, sadly, no stronger than last season, even though Prey came in. It's what the people wanted, but be careful what you wish for, seems to be the undertone of summer season. I've never seen this Gnar skin. He kind of looks like a Swain impersonator or something on this particular... Is it Northern Front Gnar or something?
He's a shapeshifter. He can change into many different forms.
Really? Is he wild also?
Yeah, that's what I've heard, actually. I wouldn't know from playing any other game or anything like that. Does Nico count as a shapeshifter?
I mean, she'd have to be, right? Would she be wild also?
I guess so. Right? I mean, I don't feel like there's any other. Like, I don't know the Nico lore, to be honest. I'm not the lore reader.
But we need a lore guy. Who's our lore guy?
LS has started reading it again.
Oh, nice. At least we got him there.
He's enjoying the new lore from Riot, so shout out to them. I wouldn't know because I don't read the lore, but somebody here is.
Well, what can we say about the game state here? It's going to be Sivir plus Yuumi, so we know that Nautilus has worked well against Yuumi. It's our first Yuumi sighting of the week. It's been banned very frequently over the course of this season. If we're going to talk about the Gnar, we should mention that it's gone Summonary on the top side. So there's going to be the harass version trying to get chips in, and Kingan is from the Cuvée School of Thought and gone for press the attack. So there's been some modifications rune-wise, and this should be a lane where Gnar kind of has trouble, because Gnar usually just kind of stacks health, right? Gets a Frozen Mallet in lane, goes for just a tanky build, and Situation can be a lane bully with just Hyper. Meanwhile, Kennen could go Blade Rage Blade and potentially just try to shred him in the side lane, so the item builds here might be kind of shoe on the other foot in a big way.
It would be cool to see also if King can actually step up to the plate when it comes to Keen. I mean, it's a weird world where we come into KT versus Afrika and it's not Smeb in the top lane up against one of our best top laners in Keen. It's a lot to handle, it's pressure, and I feel like they've done it more than once in terms of throwing Kingen up against very tough opponents.
But I mean, what roster do you want from KT? Like, what is the names you want, right, Valdez? Because they're all performing pretty much the same. They're all being pretty poor this season, and Smeb is one of the chief offenders. So I think giving Kingen another go can't necessarily be a bad decision for the squad, but it's just a strange thing to consider.
Yeah, and I feel like more often than not, Kingen comes out. He fails up against the top of the table. Right, I feel like he could come in up against the bottom and do just fine. But up against some of the better ones, especially with really strong top laners on the team, he comes in, doesn't do well, and then we see Smeb again. And we're like, well, this rotation isn't necessarily working out because neither of them are working out in a big way.
Squall got double scuttled in this game. Zinjad actually parked bot side. And Kennen just used the priority, Gnar just used the priority he had to take the top side scuttle. It's a nice map move there. Score is also spotted top side, so Zinjao pretty much has free run of the jungle so far. Obviously, as Jarvan, you're not looking for you're not hankering for a 1v1 against press the attack Zinjao, but I do like that Gnar found a moment to get that sort of priority to actually come through and take the top side scuttle. When it was Kennen beating Gnar, a couple of years ago, I'm thinking 2016, Cuvée playing the AP Kennen side of the matchup. There's kind of an adjustment there as BDD takes a lot of damage trading against Nico.
Yeah, it's an early trade. It's going to go well for the Nico if you can lock him down and get your combo, as Dread is looking towards the top lane here. He's actually going to hide on Bush. Ooh. Baker W. Yeah, didn't go up through the tri-brush. Up the top side.
Had intel that it was warded, I believe. Yeah. Hoping that Yukao can be very Faker-esque with his impersonations and his hiding with his passive, his Twin Shadows. Likely to come out, or at least the GLP with the Glacial Augment build coming through from Yukao. Otherwise, rune choices pretty standard across the board. One to remember, 80 on-hit cannon, so the AP ult flanks, not going to be there.
Yeah, once again, from the mid lane, we do take a look. I feel like BDD is the one guy when we do watch KT that actually comes in and tries to carry. I feel like I've seen multiple games now where he's sitting at 3-0 and the rest of his team are like 0-1, 0-2. They're being pushed in and a lot of other lanes, and he just can't do it all himself.
And he has those 1-0-0 losses sometimes as well, where it's like, well, I mean, I farmed, but wasn't able to turn the tide of the game. As a random aside, I believe we have 2 champions on the side of Afrika that don't have a Korean voiceover. I think Nico and Nar both have just the global voiceover. Nar obviously just says his own name, shouts, so definitely there. I believe it's the same with Nico. I believe so.
I never actually considered that.
Yeah.
Most of them would have, you know, a bunch of voice lines and stuff.
Well, anyone who's basically a Pokemon, it turns out, is just fine.
You mean like Beryl?
That's one of our English in-jokes, is that his name is either an ointment that you apply to your feet or a Pokemon's name. Like, you could understand. You could be prescribed Beryl, and you'd be like, okay.
I don't think you've ever been that specific before, but it's even better when you think of it that way.
But I do like shouting, Beryl!
Yeah.
This sounds like a Pokemon. The things we find time to talk about in our League of Legends professional broadcast that we're paid for.
It's definitely like one of those small dog Pokemon, or like a rock Pokemon like Geodude.
What does he evolve into? Whatever happened in that Alistair performance, apparently.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's evolved multiple times. Would it just be Baralister? That's his next one?
I don't know. My eyes dilate. I don't know what you did over there, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, Beryl and Alistair.
That's the first time
Baralister.
If we ever interview him, that would be the first question to ask him about was the name of his evolution.
What is your evolution? He's like, what the hell is it? These weird English casters.
Well, we qualify as that. Nice little root hits there from Yukal. Yukal versus BD. Remember when this was super hype? Last year, remember? This would have been KT Rolster versus Kingzone. One of our hype mid-lane matchups. It's just nice to see Yukal starting. We kind of say that every time we see Yukal in the summer season, but finding a role for a player who did look like one of those big up-and-comers in 2018. Score himself has had to deal with being double scuttled. Has been able to at least claw back any sort of a CS parity. Looking for his invade. There's a bit of situational pressure here. Aiming and the Yuumi going to be giving up the lane phase for now. So actually things pretty comfortable on the bot side, and we've not noticed a kind of minion wave to minion wave and a half advantage for Prey in the 2v2.
It's feeling good down there. I suppose just the ever-present Nautilus for a couple of the teams. We saw Mata used to pick a lot of Nautilus. I feel like Snowflower is also a guy who likes it. Dread going to come around here and say no to Score about the Mountain Drake. And, yeah, actually one of those stats that we saw is actually relevant in this case because aiming's damage is very high, but his CS is actually relatively low compared to other 80 carries. So it could even just be an aiming problem.
I might ask the stats people, because I know some of them from the OGN days. They've been around the LCK a long time. If they could give me that stat and filter out Ezreal games, because I feel like Ezreal was the most misleading when it comes to damage per gold. He gets his 2 items. They don't cost a lot of gold, and we know they just do a huge amount of damage. So I'll be interested to see if the top players still hold their spot and we control for that. Keen is doing just fine. Kind of being reminded of the days where, again, the recent trend has been Nar doing better and better in this matchup, but to be fair, AD Cannon does need his core items to get going.
So you're saying it'll take a while then to find some action on the top side? You have said it. It has been stated.
Great. Does mean we have more time
for the record.
Barrel. And maybe a Mountain Drake.
Yeah, looks like this should be going down here.
No TP wards to potentially come in here, but one could be hastily placed.
How about 1800 steal? No. Not today.
Today. Whoa. Was that an EQ fail?
Score was very angry at Prey.
That was a inspired by Canyon moment.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, Canyon hasn't played since that series.
Yeah. That'll be good. He has to go up against Griffin next.
And a Drake, potentially.
Yeah.
And if he's playing Jarvan, we know those Drakes can be angry.
We know he has trouble with the Drakes. He's not a fan of his music.
Really, you went there? The recording artist.
I felt like when you said no, it was just like saying no to my joke. Like, no. Rather than the way you were really
My
responding.
name is Papa. I'm allowed to make bad jokes. They're dad jokes.
That's true.
Well, Dread is trying to find a meaningful advantage on this Xin Zhao. There is always the potential that we just farm 2-item Azir and Kalista show up, and they do just a boatload of damage and KT win, right? That could definitely happen here. If Kingen returns to top lane with a Baron, AD Ken does a lot of stuff. His score bounces into a pit he didn't necessarily want to be part of.
Score is quite tanky, though. He's going to get that knock-up, and Dread gets stomped down by the Rift Herald, and down he will go. First blood going to be given over to KT off of a nice assist from Shelly.
I like to think that Shelly got the kill on that one. Good job, Shelly. Golf clap to you. Claps down the Xin Zhao. Take your Hail of Blades and stick it. Speaking of sticking it, the Rift Herald going straight on the ring.
KT Rolster coming on in here. Score is going to tell the younger jungler to take a seat with the help of his good old friend Shelly. That'll be a nice injection of gold now into the side of KT, and we'll get them their 2 items faster.
And Freak of Freaks, we saw their stats, and they basically can be summated as, if it starts good, it ends good. But what is left off there is, if things go a little bit weird at the start and they fall behind, there's less guarantees they'll be able to bring it back. Now, KT have also been the most guilty of throwing huge leads. I'm thinking of 3 Infernal Drake Pike, and another game that was pretty similar. Let's watch the replay here. Dread's like, this is mine. I'm gonna kill him. Where's Shelly? She was waiting for a moment. Yar! Boom. Smacks him to death.
Wow. The Observer's really getting in there.
Just like Shelly.
Thanks, Sun2.
That's true. He is the replay observer,
He's
isn't
the replay observer. I saw him practicing earlier with that.
He was practicing the ultra zoom in just in case Shelly smacked around his Xin Zhao.
At least the ultra zoom in. I saw him working on that one.
Suntung might be a name that might be new to you guys, but he is the replay observer, but most recently also did some translation when G-Sun was on the analyst desk. We get to have a lot of people that are it's kind of like names that we come up with and floating heads rather than actually seeing them on screen too often, but shout out to Suntung, one of our favorite people around Riot Korea. BD pushes up, and hey, KT Rolster. The early game has been kind to them. The first 14 minutes are where Freak can really slam you down, but not these first 14 minutes. The only person who's kind of largely unscathed is Kane, who's been farming up a storm.
Yeah, we oftentimes see Keen hopping on to carry champs and doing a big thing, but I'll be very curious to see how he will do on this type of big engaged champ rather than something like an Akali or anything else that can kind of carry on its own.
You know what I now want to see? I want to see Jarvan, Gnar, and Kiana in the same game for all the different terrain creation and synergies there. Because like, if Score goes for the wrong ult, then Gnar can turn around.
Trying to bait Keen in. He gets the flash, but it's not enough. That's a good play by Kingen, as Score is there for the alley-oop.
The ult's there for the CC. The CC's good, and they get that kill onto Keen. Another good moment. Can't leave AD Cannon with too much time on this target or just straight up die. Dread doesn't know if Jarvan's still around, so being respectful.
Kingen's actually doing some real damage with the play of the Rune King. This Xin Zhao really hasn't been able to get much done in the early game.
We talked about how the lane changes a lot when that first item comes in, and Blade of Ruin King is the epitome of a power spike for Kingen. Turret gets smacked, Xin Zhao gets smite, steals begin. AT Rolster. Is it finally time to get excited?
I mean, you think about the 2 plays that have really changed the way this game has been going. The one is around the Rift Herald. It's Dread versus Score. Score baits him into it and just outplays him. Essentially a 1v1, and that allows KT to get ahead. And then another play on the top side where they're just able to bait Keenan, who maybe overestimated the Gnar tankiness when he was in hyper form. He's not very tanky. Spoiler alert in that form, so It's a couple of good plays to KT. I mean, as much as Afrika aren't looking great, KT are really taking advantage of what Afrika has given them.
And I don't mean to hyperinflate the stat of how good Afrika is from the start and how they can fall behind as you get the toggling on the vision there. Dread not really going to be able to get him to 3 levels above him, Azir. But another reason to bring it up is, from behind, Gnar is one of the hardest champions to play. Because how do you get your teleport Mega Gnar timing off, which requires a lot of coordination and time to build up in a scenario like that? He was exhausted here. That's why it's a great timing from Score to beat top lane. Because you're right, there's no threat of a transform, no threat of a turnaround. Was a great gank timing, but just coming back again. You got to find that big Mega Gnar, and it's so hard to do when the minion wave's pushing into you.
The first thing that I saw that came to mind while you were talking is I took a look at the items in KT. They're using this extra gold to get everybody to buy 2 control wards. I mean, everybody's got good items. They're hitting their 1.5 item spikes here, but they spend the extra on some sick vision. This is a good KT. I mean, so far here in game number 1, can't really complain about much.
And everyone, even if you have one down, replace it so we just have a line of 1 control ward down the right-hand side. Come on, BDD. Get in there. Control ward something. Just in the middle. Just control ward in the face of Nico. Whatever. Swag on her.
He's already got 2, 1 on each side. But it's time. You gotta do it.
KT are power slamming Afrika Freaks in the early game here. And if you watch wrestling, you know the power slam rarely a finisher, but it's definitely a good way to get good things happening. And here comes the KT hype train. It's a bit late. It was supposed to come in January. It got delayed. Factory problems.
I mean, this is a contract that's probably gone void by now. We don't know if they can win 8 games in a row, but I guarantee there are some people out there hoping for it. And, well, this would be a good start to that streak if it actually did happen, as Score does not want to go away. He's waiting for the bait.
Well, it's going to have to be pretty tasty for aiming to walk up. Dread also ahead of the play is here for the counter gank, but doesn't matter. Even though it's Xin Zhao who can do a lot of damage early. Look at the gold lead, Val. It's 4,500. That's pretty big. KT have thrown bigger, but they so far have been pretty on point. They've made the smart moves. Afrika haven't made huge mistakes, but they've made small mistakes, and KT have taken advantage of them. And now, with the outnumber here, it's pretty hard for Afrika Freaks to get an outplay. They can wave clear and buy time.
Yeah, really the only way for KT to go in on this one is to straight up tower dive, as it is the Sivir who is just clearing out the waves. And you can see that, I mean, they've been hanging around here for so long, kind of thinking, hesitating, do we go for it? But they decide against it in the end.
They have to take their time. They want to get Kalista with that second item on the Rift soon. That seems to be coming before too long. Contest the enemy jungle. Don't want to trifle with this Azir. And move away from there.
It's like a suffocation strat, you know? It's not like they're trying to do anything overly aggressive. They take it very slow and steady.
And you think how it started?
Choke out all the vision, you know?
It started in such a weird fashion. Remember, KT weren't doing really anything until that Rift Herald charge. Before then, Yukar was chunking out the BDD.
vision.
Has disconnected.
Blah 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 first, ask questions later.
People needs answers now.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift. "30 seconds until minions spawn.